Welcome to China Elite Politics, a podcast about Chinese Communist Party elite politics and operations, U.S. China relations, and China-related geopolitics. I'm Larry Ong, Senior Analyst at SinoInsider. This is episode 2 of the podcast. In this episode, I'll share some thoughts about the U.S. China meeting in Alaska and look at the factional struggle factor behind Communist China's wolf warrior diplomacy. Alright, let's begin. On the 18th and 19th of March, U.S. Secretary of State Tony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Central Foreign Affairs Commission Office Director Yang Jiechi and Wang Yi, the Foreign Minister of the People's Republic of China. Media outlets focus on Yang's opening remarks in Anchorage, which at 16 minutes was 8 times longer than the allotted 2 minutes per person. In his remarks, Yang Jiechi played up the People's Republic of China's political system and economic development, including the 14th Five-Year Plan. He promoted Xi Jinping's political accomplishments, including his handling of COVID-19, ending absolute poverty in China, and making, quote, historic achievements in building the country into a moderately prosperous one. Yang Jiechi insisted that, quote, the Chinese people are wholly rallying around the Communist Party of China. He called on Washington to, quote, abandon the Cold War mentality and zero-sum game approach, and declared Communist China's opposition to U.S. interference in China's internal affairs on matters pertaining to Xinjiang, Tibet, and Taiwan. Yang Jiechi also criticized the U.S. on human rights, citing Black Lives Matter as an example of deep-seated challenges facing the nation. He also stressed that Xi Jinping hopes for, quote, no confrontation, no conflict, mutual respect, and win-win cooperation with the United States. Finally, Yang accused the US of being a champion of cyber attacks and argued that America does not represent international public opinion, the Western world, or universal values. Western media and commentators say Yang Jiechi's feisty remarks were a response to equally feisty statements from US officials. They cite, as an example, Secretary Blinken expressing, quote, deep concerns with actions by China, including in Xinjiang, Hong Kong, Taiwan, cyber attacks on the United States, and economic coercion toward our allies. Blinken also noted that China's actions, quote, threaten the rules-based order that maintains global stability. However, Secretary Blinken's remarks are overly modest in comparison with what his predecessor Mike Pompeo said about Communist China. As Secretary of State, Pompeo drew a clear distinction between the Chinese people and the Chinese Communist Party, and said that the latter is, quote, a Marxist-Leninist party focused on struggle and international domination. He criticized the Chinese Communist Party for eviscerating Hong Kong's freedoms. He also condemned the party for intensifying religious repression on the mainland, including the persecution of house Christians and Falun Gong practitioners. And just before leaving office, Pompeo declared that Communist China's actions in Xinjiang amount to genocide. In considering the benchmark set by the Trump administration, what Biden officials said in Alaska can hardly be considered feisty. As for Yang Jiechi's feisty remarks, those who read Xinhua, People's Daily, or Global Times will quickly realize that he was mostly rehashing standard Chinese Communist Party propaganda. Conservative commentators have also correctly noted that Yang's criticism of human rights in America was borrowed from the woke rhetoric and narrative espoused by establishment media and politicians in America. On a related note, wokeism is a derivative of cultural Marxism, and Black Lives Matter is a radical Marxist organization. In short, Yang Jiechi's remarks were totally unoriginal and are very likely a prepared statement. The Biden-Harris administration appears to have reached the same conclusion as I have. According to a March 21st article in The Atlantic magazine, a senior administration official revealed that, quote, the US delegation believed Yang's opening gambit had been pre-planned and was not an off-the-cuff response. If that is the case, then from Communist China's perspective, what Secretary Blinken and National Security Advisor Sullivan said that day is virtually irrelevant. The media framing of a fractious U.S. China meeting in Alaska is far off the mark. I believe that Yang Jiechi's performance in Alaska is political theater, propaganda work, and hegemonic signaling all rolled into one. Yang's rhetoric is highly consistent with the brash, domineering, power projection type foreign policy that we are used to seeing under General Secretary Xi Jinping. Officially, this foreign policy is called Great Power Diplomacy, or 大国外交, and is derived from Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy, or 习近平外交思想. Internationally, Xi's foreign policy is better known as wolf warrior diplomacy. Part of great power diplomacy involves the promotion of the narrative of a rising communist China displacing an America in terminal decline. This is encapsulated in the propaganda slogan, "The East is rising and the West is declining," or 东升西降. To highlight this propaganda, Yang Jiechi identified communist China's strengths and America's weaknesses in his remarks. First, he played up Xi Jinping's victories like COVID control and poverty alleviation work. Then, he moved to undermine U.S. moral standing and right to global leadership by highlighting America's perceived hypocrisy on human rights at home from the existence of the Black Lives Matter movement. Yang's remarks are a signal to the international community and the Chinese people that Communist China is now the superior power in the U.S. China relationship. Finally, Yang Jiechi's showing in Alaska adds to Xi Jinping's foreign policy accomplishments ahead of the 20th Party Congress in 2022. The intimidation and humiliation of the United States in Anchorage allows Xi to frame his aggressive foreign policy strategy as the correct one for Communist China. Xi's factional rivals have been claiming that his strongman policies led to the worsening of the U.S.-China relationship and contributed to the perfect storm of problems endangering the regime. Now, Xi can counter his factional rivals by claiming that his foreign policy strategy has scored a victory by placing the PRC ahead of the USA. At this juncture, a brief discussion about Xi Jinping's wolf warrior diplomacy is in order. Many China watchers believe Xi moved away from Deng Xiaoping's low-intensity foreign policy strategy known as hide your strength, bide your time, or 韬光养晦, due to his ambition and megalomania. They are partially correct because Xi is an ambitious leader and has plans to reform the Communist Party. However, Xi's policy choices are less the result of megalomania and more influenced by the practical concerns caused by factional struggle in the Chinese leadership. To distinguish himself from rivals Jiang Zemin and the Jiang faction, Xi Jinping had to go in the opposite direction on policy. For foreign affairs, that means abandoning the low-key 韬光养晦 and the so-called China's peaceful rise strategy, which Jiang Zemin followed, and embracing the aggressive 大国外交 or 战狼外交. Xi Jinping also introduced government reforms to resolve the problem of 政令不出中南海, or the orders of the party boss not making it outside party headquarters at Zhongnanhai and being faithfully implemented by PRC officials. Until March 2018, the foreign policy apparatus answered to the PRC State Council and Chinese Premier. Party general secretaries had indirect influence over the foreign policy apparatus through the Central Foreign Affairs Leading Group. To complicate matters, the PRC foreign policy apparatus was aligned with the Jiang faction by virtue of the latter's dominance in the regime from 1997 to 2012. After party and state institutional reforms were rolled out during the 2018 two sessions, the foreign affairs apparatus came under the direct and formal supervision of the party side of the PRC's parallel government system. This meant that the foreign affairs apparatus was ultimately answerable to General Secretary Xi Jinping, who is the head of the new Central Foreign Affairs Commission that replaced the Central Foreign Affairs Leading Group, and not to Premier Li Keqiang at the State Council. The reforms also meant that Yang Jiechi, the director of the Central Foreign Affairs Commission and a Politburo member, outranked Foreign Minister Wang Yi by half a grade and displaced the latter as the PRC's top diplomat. For foreign policy wongs out there, now you know why the foreign affairs chief of a political party is the leading diplomat in Communist China and not the country's foreign minister. Okay, back to the main topic. So who really won the Alaska meeting? Supporters of the Biden-Harris administration claimed that Yang Jiechi's remarks were a sign that Communist China lacked confidence, or was simply afraid of being encircled by an alliance of democracies led by America. Meanwhile, supporters of the Trump administration and former Trump officials have blasted the Biden officials for a poor showing. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo described the performance of Biden officials as embarrassing in a TV interview, adding that the Chinese Communist Party will bully and take advantage of the United States for displaying weakness. When asked about how he would handle the meeting differently, Pompeo said he would push back against claims by PRC officials that America is not a beacon of democracy for the world. He would also tell them that America protects its own, promote America first and American exceptionalism, and call out Communist China for allowing the spread of the coronavirus around the world. In reviewing Pompeo's past speeches as Secretary of State, I believe he might have even told Yang Jiechi and Wang Yi in a hypothetical meeting that there is no, quote, moral equivalence between the People's Republic of China, which ruthlessly imposes communism during the best of times, and the United States, which secures freedom amid the most difficult challenges. Speculation aside, Secretary Blinken and National Security Advisor Sullivan's mixed response to Yang Jiechi meant that Communist China was the clear winner in the battle of opening remarks in Alaska. Blinken and Sullivan acknowledged America's flaws and vowed to work with allies and partners to solve problems, arguments that partially justify Yang's critique of the United States. No wonder Yang Jiechi went on to declare that America, quote, does not have the qualification to say that it wants to speak to China from a position of strength. With its diplomatic and propaganda victory in the bag, we can expect that the Chinese Communist Party will keep looking for ways to set the tone of the U.S. China relationship, as PRC Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chuning said after the Alaska meeting. We hope that the US side will work with China toward the same direction, and we need to respect and accommodate each other's core interests and major concerns in particular. Talk of cooperation after humiliating an opponent is a classic tactic the Chinese Communist Party uses to press an advantage, similar to carrot and stick but the other way around. The Biden-Harris administration needs to get tougher on Communist China, or it risks Beijing eating America's lunch, to paraphrase President Biden. Let's recap briefly. In this episode, we debunked the popular narrative of a feisty U.S. China meeting in Alaska by showing that both sides stuck to their respective official scripts in their opening remarks. We also looked at the factional struggle factor behind Xi Jinping's wolf warrior diplomacy, that is, how Xi's foreign strategy takes Chinese elite politics into account. Finally, from the perspective of public impression, Communist China was the clear winner of the meeting in Anchorage. That's it for today. If you found this episode useful, please feel free to share it with others. See you in the next episode.